And I'm joined now by Democrat Robb Kahl and his Republican challenger Sandy Bakk. And here in Dane County, we have much lower unemployment, of course, as you know, than some parts of the state, but still, plenty of people out of work. And you obviously have very different views on how to go about getting people back to work. And let's start with Representative Kahl here and talk a little bit about how you plan to do that.
Well, I think we have to work with business a little bit more and not be reactionary to things that are happening out in the marketplace. Some of the things we can do from the beginning is, I think, do a better connection between public education, the K through 12 system, the technical college system, and the UW system with business. We have a lot of businesses out there with vacancies, but they're telling us they haven't got the trained workforce to fill those spots. We need to do a better job of finding out where those openings are, making that connection with our education system and training people to do so. We also need to, there's legislation out there. The venture capital bill is something that didn't happen last session. That can be a real big boost to small business, especially here in the UW-Madison area, which is where this district is. But it failed for partisan reasons, and that's unfortunate. I think we need to put those things aside and try to get something like that done. Same with the Next Generation Jobs Act. That can be an investment in a lot of high-tech areas, a focused investment for job creation. And again, that's going to benefit us in this district for sure, because the UW generates a lot of that industry. So it's, I was mayor of Monona for 8 years, and we created hundreds of jobs when I was mayor working with businesses. The private sector wants a willing partner that listens to them and is proactive. We need to do that at the state level. I think we've been a little bit too reactionary. And if we're going to give some tax incentives, let's make sure they're targeted, they're transparent, and there's some accountability. We can't just be writing checks and not having some follow through to make sure that there's some jobs created, and these jobs are family supporting jobs that bring some tax revenue to the state in return. And
Ms. Bakk, we want you to have the opportunity to answer that question as well. And how might your plan differ from Mr. Kahl's?
Well, I think Mr. Kahl has some very good ideas. I actually agree with him on a lot of his ideas. I mean, education is absolutely key. We need to strengthen our education. The one difference that I have in him versus him is I have I think some really intense concerns about how our educational system is dealing with the minority population. We have so many of our minorities who are not, the educational system as it is not meeting their needs. And I think we really need to make that a priority to engage those families, those students, and really get them into a place where they can become contributing members of our society. The other thing that I think is really important is controlling regulation, controlling spending by our government. I think when the state government shows restraint and the desire to really respect taxpayers, I guess, that gives businesses confidence that they can come into our state and know what to expect in the future, that we don't carry a huge deficit, that we respect that. We can't have a massive government while growing private sector. So I think both of those things together and maybe the opportunity in the future to really lower our tax rates for both individuals and corporations would do a lot to stimulate the economy.
Now I want to touch on a couple issues that both of you have put forth kind of to push economic prosperity for citizens and your constituents. You've taken a stance to reduce poverty through marriage. Explain how that would work and what your thought is there.
Well, I think, there's generations of families that have really, young people have never really seen the benefits of marriage. And, it's not the role of government to enforce, social policy. But I think there's a lot of educational things. And, our research will tell us that young people who achieve completion of education, marriage before children, and a full-time job, their risk for poverty is almost eliminated. So I think there's ways that you can, especially for our young people who are receiving government services, to just say, these are the facts. Consider this when you make life choices. You can't force anybody, but I think a lot of people need to hear that, that poverty and single parenting go hand in hand, and that we can best provide for children who have to be the focus of our future, are best cared for in very strong families. Anything that the government can do should be done, I think, to promote the strength of the family. I mean, right now, our population in Wisconsin is greatly aging. I think we have, percentage-wise, in our population in general, much lower percentage of young people. So we really have to care for the young people that we have. We have to promote families. We have to have a place for young people to have hope and jobs and a future and stay in our state, and really balance what's happening with our aging population. And along with having young people in our state, we want young people who are able to contribute, not caught up in some of the poverty and violence issues that we've seen, especially locally.
Well, Mr. Kahl, you mentioned a little bit ago creating this capital, this venture capital fund. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, what is that? What's it all about? How would it work?
Well, I think a good example would be the Next Generation's Jobs Bill, which is kind of a targeted venture capital fund, and it was introduced last session, but again, because of partisan politics, didn't get anywhere, and it shouldn't have been a partisan issue. This is a fund that's focused on agribusiness, stem cell research, high technology areas. And what you do is take the revenue generated by the new jobs created there and reinvest it into this fund. And then to create new startups, that would be the pool of money, plus there'd probably be, obviously have to be some seed money from the state to invest in these businesses. On a grander scale, when you just talk about generally the venture capital fund, that's kind of how it works too. There's got to be some seed money, but as you generate new jobs, new income is then brought into the state through income tax, sales tax, other sources. You then use that to replenish. It should be a fund that turns itself over. It's similar to what we've done in Monona when I was mayor, through both our TIF districts, our Renew Monona program, et cetera, where we helped fund improvements in housing and improvement in facades for businesses, but also large infrastructure investments. You use that money, invest it, and then the new tax revenue it generates, it goes back into a pool for reinvestment. It works. We just need to set aside some of the partisan politics to get this thing moving forward. Other states have done it. It's proven to be successful. It can't be the state carrying it on its own. It's got to work with business, like we did when I was mayor of Monona. You partner with the businesses, you get a source of revenue, and then it should be self-sufficient after a while. And so for us in particular, I keep focusing on the Next Generation Jobs Act because our backyard is the UW. And it's a great source for new businesses. You've got Wharf there. We've got all these patents we've got. The east side of Madison in this district has been designated by, was Mayor Chislevich at the time, is this bioag corridor. You've got a lot of industry in Fitchburg related to that also. We've got this great opportunity to maintain but really create new jobs, and these will be high-paying jobs that are long-term sustainable. We just need to make that initial investment with businesses, because right now there's concern from an investment standpoint for the private investor, the banks, et cetera, to make some of those investments. We need to show that we have some faith in these industries, go out there and do that, but then let the industry take care of itself. And we should be able to recoup our money and then some through taxes.
A lot of people would say the long-term economic prosperity starts with education. Education, of course, is a big issue this last legislative term. Big movement we just saw in Chicago. It wasn't really about pay, it was more about teacher evaluations. How would you, and we'll start with you, Mr. Kahl, how would you hold educators accountable, and is there a way to do it fairly?
Well, I think there was a compromise with the Superintendent Evers and Governor Walker here in the last year on some accountability standards. And I would agree with those. There's got to be transparency and accountability. As a parent of 4 children, 2 in school already, 2 that will be on the way, we've been very fortunate. We've got great teachers. The Monona Grove District's a great district. McFarland's a great district. I mean, we're very fortunate, I think, in this assembly district to have great schools. But there's an expectation as a parent that you've got some accountability and from the teachers that are spending time with your children. But you also then have to give the teachers those tools to be able to get the job done. You can't expect them, you put 30-some kids in 2nd grade in front of a teacher and expect them to have the same results as a teacher who's got 20 kids. And part of the problem, you can't cut $1.6 billion from public education K through 12 and expect there to be no impact. You can't cut 1.6 and then take also $300 million and give it to private voucher schools that have no accountability standards, unlike the K through 12 system, and expect there's not going to be some impact. I think there's tools we can use if there are concerns, and I understand the parents in Milwaukee have concerns, but there's the charter school mechanism you can utilize. We've done that in Monona Grove through our MG21 school. That's within the system. You can have unique approaches. Nuestro Mundo now has located their school in Monona because they grew out of the space they had in Madison. And that's a prime example, a very successful school that's targeted. There's things we can do, and I agree there has to be accountability. There has to be transparency and an understanding of how that accountability is going to be measured. I think the Evers-Walker compromise gets us there. I think part of the problem, though, is while it's a plan and there's, I think, some measurable standards, I don't know that we have funded it today to give it the true ability to give us a picture. But you've got to have an opportunity for these teachers not to be measured arbitrarily by just test scores. Because some teachers, because they are better teachers, are going to have some more challenging students assigned to them. So then you got to measure how that individual student improves. And that's not always measured by just a test score. But we need to give the teachers the tools. That doesn't mean throw more money at it, but it doesn't mean taking $1.6 billion away from it either.
Ms. Bakk?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Rob says. Again, I think we are very fortunate to have excellent schools in this area. Again, I think our challenges really are in those demographics that we have young people coming into our schools that haven't been, they haven't had the benefits that a lot of the higher socioeconomic kids have. We have to figure out how to address those things. That's one thing, and I do agree that charter schools could be the answer. I would support the probability that in the near future we're going to have to look at how to change what's happening with that group of kids who don't have a reason to be really hopeful now, and neither do their parents, that they are going to be able to be successful in school, that they're going to be college material when they graduate, or be able to even get a good paying job. So part of it is really giving them a sense of hope that there is something out there for them, and that we're behind them, and that we're willing to work outside the box, to meet with parents, meet with our minority families, and say, what do you think is going to help you? The other part, I think, is being an optimist by nature. We look at the current socioeconomic status of our state, and we say, you know what, we don't have the money to just endlessly address problems for that answer to be money. So what can we do in a more creative way? What can we do to preserve our private economy by not increasing costs of education, which for our state and for our district are already way above average, to make that solution something that has not money as the total answer, knowing that we are really funding these efforts really well right now, but looking at creativity. And as far as teacher accountability, obviously the more challenges the incoming students have, the more difficult it is to hold a teacher accountable for moving a student up to grade level. So there are testing mechanisms that can just say, how have you improved in this year? And I think that's a reasonable expectation. I think also there has to be a lot of individualized approach. Obviously, you look at a teacher's classroom and they have 5–10% of their kids who are highly needy, they have a lot of special needs, and the expectation cannot be the same for a classroom that is full of average performing or high performing kids. And we don't want to do that to our teachers because they work very hard. But again, I just really feel like there's opportunities. We have a lot of innovation in education. Being close to the university, we can use that innovation to particularly with technology, to really lower the cost of teaching kids, to engage them with technology, to be able to then look for those answers in a less costly way, and also to hopefully engage the children more. I mean, for my own kids, anything that had to do with technology really caught their interest, and we're really moving into that. And with UW right here, I think that offers a real opportunity. But again, I just really feel like there has to be balance with the needs of the taxpayers. We can't always look for money to be the first and sometimes the only answer to outcomes.
In closing, I just want to give the voters an opportunity to kind of be able to separate the two of you. You have agreed on a couple of issues, and we want to educate them when they go to the polls. What's the difference between the two of you? What are the stark contrasts? Why should they vote for you, Ms. Bakk? Why should they vote for you, Mr. Kahl? We'll start with Ms. Bakk. What's the difference? What separates you from your opponent?
Well, I think we both agree about increasing the jobs and strengthening the private economy. The difference being that I understand that you cannot grow government at the same time as you attempt to grow the private sector. So that's one thing. I am for restrained growth of government, maybe even cutting back in areas that, as time goes on, there's some attrition, so that we can have a smaller government, so we can have more money going into the private sector, staying in the taxpayers' pocket so they can invest in the community. The other difference, I think, one of the other big differences is, Mr. Kahl has an extensive background in government and, local government, but still he has an extensive background. I'm a nurse. I do not have that. I feel that I'm more of a citizen coming to the legislature in hopes of really addressing the needs that the average person feels. I don't have a lot of big connections with, I've never worked as a lobbyist certainly, but I've never actually had a job that I felt was politically connected. So I really feel like I'm more in touch with what the average voter, the average taxpayer comes to the polls worrying about.
Mr. Kahl, your opportunity to answer that question.
Well, you've heard we've had some, some agreements here. We certainly have some differences. I look with pride upon my 4 terms as mayor of Monona. It's a part-time position, so you don't make a lot of money doing it. It's a volunteer position, really. But I had 8 budgets during my 4 terms, all of them 0% levy increases. I did that while adding police officers, expanding our park services, improving city services, and I think the voters appreciated the work I did. I got 80% of the vote in the primary for this election from the people of Monona. So I've got that experience, which I don't think is something that should be something I shy away from. I'm very proud of it. When I got elected, we were warned by Moody's and Standard & Poor's that they were going to downgrade our bond rating because we had depleted our rainy day fund to very low levels. And so I sat down with the council. I talked about needs, wants, priorities. And I said, one of the things we have to do is rebuild this fund. And I pleaded with Standard & Poor's and Moody's not to downgrade us because we had Monona Drive, a large construction project coming up, and this would have increased our costs exponentially. When I left office, our rainy day fund was 3 times the size it was when I took office, and they had increased our bond rating to the highest it could be for a municipality our size. And I did that without increasing taxes in my budgets. I worked with people across the board. I am a business owner in the district. I'm somebody who sat at the kitchen table with my wife, signed personal loans, put our name on mortgages to create jobs in the district. I'm somebody who sat there and made sure my employees got paid before I got paid. So I have the private sector experience and the government experience. But it's also telling when you look at the people that know me best. The entire City Council of Monona has endorsed me. The past mayors have endorsed me. All but one on the school board from Monona Grove have endorsed me. The one is because he's brand new. Somebody just moved, so I haven't met him yet. The majority of the McFarland Village Board has endorsed me. The Village Board President of McFarland has endorsed me. And the Town of Dunn, which shares the school district of McFarland, the entire Town of Dunn Board has endorsed me, and the Town Board President. These are people that not through anything I've done except show them what I can do as a mayor, show them I understand the needs of small business as a business owner, have decided between the 2 of us, I'm the one who can probably best move Wisconsin forward. And I've done all this as a business owner and as a mayor, working with people from both sides of the aisle. It's something for me where I always say, check your egos and check your ideology at the door. Let's get a compromise done. And I'm going to try to do that in Madison. It's not going to be easy. I'm the first one to admit that. But besides those people, every mayor, town chairman, village board president in this district, there's 8 municipalities, are endorsing me. And you couple that with all the business groups, the environmental groups, labor, et cetera, across the board, some that would typically be with a Republican, some with Democrats, they've all endorsed me because I've had a message of let's get to work, let's compromise, and I've got the experience of being a mayor and being a small business owner. And that's what sets us apart, I think, and it's something I look back on with pride. I'm 40 years old. I think I've done a lot in these last 15, 20 years, and I look forward to doing more in the next 15, 20 years, hopefully as a representative in the 47th District.
Well, thank you very much for both of you for joining us in studio today, and best of luck on November 6th.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming in.
Thank you.